Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. So today I am on day 1 of PMDD and I'm going on a trip. And by a trip, I mean I'm about to disassociate for approximately 14 days. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. I'm going to tell you what that looks like. And it's one of the things that I do within my PMDD when I feel like my symptoms are about to come on strong. This month is coming in hot. I can already feel it already. And I don't disassociate during PMDD every single month, but there are some months where I'm like, oh, like we can't stay here. How many of you have wanted to run away from your PMDD symptoms, run away from PMDD? And you're feeling like, I wish there was some way I could escape it. When I know that I'm going to have a hard month because I've tracked this for so long, I will 100% disassociate and not feel bad about it. If you're in a relationship, I will say that this is something that you have to communicate and agree upon with your partner, because when I used to do it, it used to cause a lot of stress and anxiety for my partner because he would call me going internal when I would be zoning out. He would be wanting, attention, love, affection, all of the things. And I would be there, physically there, but not really there. And one of the things that really impacted, him when I was in the relationship was that we would be maybe at social gatherings and he would be like having fun and look over at me. And I'm just like staring into the abyss, or like we get into the car and he's trying to talk to me and I'm like staring out of the window. I can tell you 1000% that every single time I know that the right thing to do is to disassociate is when my PMDD symptoms are so intense that if I don't disassociate, if I just stay present and I'm in those feelings, emotions, thoughts, I am going to act like a legit lunatic. It's almost like I can see myself do things and in my mind like a flash, and then I don't do them, but then I have like the visual. I know you've done this. If you have PMDD, I know you've done this. Like you're looking at a person, maybe if you and your partner are arguing and you're looking at them and they're saying all these things, they're saying things that are triggering you. They're yelling, they're screaming, they're loud, everything is just a big trigger, and you're not responsive, you're just staring at them. But in your mind, you like, it's almost like in the movies where you do the dramatic thing, you throw everything all over the place, you smack them around, you do all the things. And in your mind, it's like you really did it, but then you were just sitting there the whole time. Like I've done that so many times where I'm like I'm talking myself through being triggered by my partner. And don't, don't say anything, don't do anything. Um, like, don't do this, like, don't go there. And yeah, I literally go there in my mind and then I'm just staring at them. Like I'm staring at my partner like you have no idea how much I'm saving your life right now, because I would go ham and cheese on that biscuit, which I call means when you go off on your partner. So I disassociate, especially if I'm in situations, social situations where I know that I have to go there, I have to deal with these triggers. And so my body is there, but my mind is literally somewhere else. So disassociating or disassociation is what it is. It's a mental process where a person disconnects from their thoughts, disconnects from their feelings, disconnects from their memories, or even their sense of identity. So it's a coping mechanism that can be used during stress, trauma, or overwhelming situations, which all of those are PMDD. And I, sometimes I don't know if the month is going to be really bad, so there's no need. So I will say do not abuse this technique, but use it when needed in extreme cases because you know, again, that you're going to go ham and cheese on that biscuit. You're about to go off on your partner. You're very hyper vigilant. You're very hyper reactive. Like every little thing is triggering you. Um, this month, I normally don't have symptoms during ovulation. Ovulation is normally my best days where I'm feeling amazing, but I had this intense level of overthinking, over rationalizing, just over everything. And it let me know like my PMDD was coming in hot. You know, some months my PMDD symptoms will start off normally, the norm for me, and it's different for everybody. The norm for me is they start off slightly, like I slightly feel the symptoms. And then by the week before my period, they intensify and then they're full on. Well, this month, I feel like I had an intensification from day -2. Like I was already overthinking in ovulation. I was like, what the heck is going on? Like it was interrupting my best days. And I was literally manic with overthinking. Like, what about this? What about that? What about this? So much to the effect that I was starting to have insomnia during ovulation because I would wake up to like get water because like throughout the night, sometimes I just get up and drink water. I have like a water bottle beside me. And as soon as I woke up, all of the thoughts came rushing in my head. And I was like, what in the world is going on? So this month I'm going on a trip. I'm going on a trip. I'm disassociating. And when you get to the point where you're used to using this technique as needed, you can kind of know when you can consciously make the decision versus you make it, your partner doesn't know what's going on, and then they're freaking out because they think they did something wrong. They're internalizing all the things about the relationship and they're trying to pull you out of this association and you won't come out of it. I've been in that situation so many times where partners have tried to make me not disassociate and it makes me disassociate even more. Like the more you call me out on it, the more you tell me, you yell at me, you scream at me, you're so upset that I'm zoning out makes me zone out even more because guess what I'm zoning out of? Anything that's stressful. Guess what you are right now when you're telling me that I'm disassociating? You're stressful. So it's counterproductive. So daydreaming or zoning out, it's a common form where you become mentally absent. You lose track of time, you lose track of your surroundings. It's kind of like if you've ever been driving and you get to a destination and you can't remember like any of the signs how you got there. You're like, oh, what was I thinking about? Right. Another thing that happens when you disassociate is there's this depersonalization. You're feeling detached from who you are as a person. So you're observing your body, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, but it's almost like you're on the outside looking in. I love doing this because it's a good reflection time to really take notes on what's going on with me during PMDD. I remember when I first found out I had PMDD and I was really trying to understand it, I did a lot of disassociating because I wanted, before I had clients, because I wanted to understand how PMDD was affecting me from the outside looking in. Like it was like hard to treat PMDD while I was in PMDD. And so before I began my practice of having clients, I would study myself and I would be like, okay, what am I going through? What am I going through this? And so I would disassociate to kind of like be on the outside looking in, take notes about it, see the tools that work, that didn't work. And then the next way that you know that you're disassociating is this derealization. So it's almost like you're experiencing the external world as unreal or dreamlike. Like things are happening around you, but like it seems like a blur. It's like do 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 do, like you're in your own little world. I love this. This is why a lot of times when I go into PMDD and I know I'm going to have a really hard month, I tend to go on vacation because I can just go there. And when you go on vacation, you can almost create this persona of a completely different person. Nobody knows you. You know, you can be whoever you want to be and they'll won't bother you. Like you're just you have that chance to escape. No one knows you have PMDD. No one knows that you're suffering internally. And you just have a chance to give yourself a break. And the next thing that happens when you disassociate is sometimes you have memory loss where you can't really recall certain periods of time, specifically if it's traumatic events. Like if you and your partner were arguing and fighting and you pretty much you can like black out. You can without actually doing something reactive, but you can just like not be able to recall certain things that happen because in your mind, it becomes so overwhelming for you that you just decide consciously or subconsciously to disassociate. So, like, you know, you were still there. You know, you didn't leave the house. You know, you didn't leave the car. You know, you didn't leave the place. But, like, when you go to recall what happened, and I've noticed this a lot of times with on private sessions where one partner was not able to recall certain events or certain aspects of the events because they had this fork in the road where it was so overwhelming for them that they just disassociated. They just checked out. They're like, check, please. I'm not doing this. I can't do this. And so one partner will be able to say, hey, this, you said this and you said that, and this is what happened, and this is what happened. And the other partner's like, I never did that. They don't know what they did. They disassociated. They weren't really there mentally. And the next thing that can happen when you disassociate is you can have like identity confusion. You know, it's basically where you adopt a different persona, where you're like, I'm not gonna, and I've done this before, I'm not gonna lie, I've done this before, where I was feeling horrible. I was feeling like very, very, very horrible. And so what I did was I started to pretend like I wasn't feeling horrible. So I created another identity. I created the identity of my follicular self, and I did the concept of fake it until you make it. I put on music. I was dancing around. I was doing all the things. Was I happy? Absolutely freaking not. Was I suffering in silence? Absolutely. But through using that disassociation, one of the benefits was when I listened to that music and I, you know, got into that mode, it helps me get a break from the strong, intense PMDD symptoms that I was feeling. So a lot of times I've even noticed with clients, they'll tell me that they listen to my podcast to disassociate. Like they're going through something really stressful in their relationship and they put on the podcast and they just dive into whatever I'm talking about. It gives your brain a break. Music and podcasts can provide a soothing distraction and it helps you shift your focus away from the agony that you're going through in your PMDD symptoms. So when you're doing that, you're just kind of like you're zoning out. And this is why I have a billion pairs of headphones. Like I really remember when I was, you know, getting into tools for PMDD, I got this obsession with headphones and I didn't know what it was. Like, because I have the kind of ears that like when I talk, like you know the AirPods, which I had to like only use on certain occasions because when I talk, apparently I move my ears like alfalfa, like from the Little Rascals. So like my AirPods used to always fall out. Matter of fact, one time I was on a business trip and I was talking, I think I was vlogging because you know if you follow me on Instagram, I vlog my journey of PMDD every single day. And I was talking, and do you know what happened? One of my AirPods fell within the cracks of the elevator. Can you imagine? So I only had one AirPod, so there was no more noise cancellation, and I kept it for so long. I kept just one AirPod, and I was like, "What am I doing? I need to buy a whole nother pair." But I tended to wear AirPods a lot because I was disassociating with music. It got to the point when I was with my partner, I would get up in the morning when I was in PMDD and immediately put my headphones on. I didn't want to hear any outside noises because you know that we have misophonia, which is a sensitivity to noise. And so I would immediately put on music. I would immediately put on something that put me in the vibe and the energy that I wanted to create versus the one that I knew I was in. So I knew, and I know for me, when I wake up in PMDD, my mornings are my worst because it's like when I'm flooded with all of the symptoms. So I immediately put on something that takes me out of the mood that I'm in and puts me in a different mood. It's part of my PMDD partners morning routine. I immediately go into the mindfulness and the meditation, meaning I immediately detach from the negative thoughts and emotions that I'm feeling in PMDD. I acknowledge them, which is how I track how I'm feeling in PMDD. Again, if you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I'll tell you every single symptom I'm feeling every single day that I'm in PMDD and in my follicular days and in ovulation and in my menstruation, all the things. And so I acknowledge I'm feeling anxiety. I'm feeling intrusive thoughts. I'm feeling overthinking. I'm feeling all these things. And then I immediately put on something that detaches from that because it's like I ask myself this question, do I want to feel this way? 9 times out of nine, the answer is absolutely not. So I can either stay in that place or I can disassociate and do something different. And so the next thing I do for when I disassociate during PMDD, when I know it's going to be a really hard month, is guided imagery. I have so many quotes around my house, around my office, around everywhere I go. I even have them in my car. I have sticky notes. I have things that give me the opposite of what I know I'm going to be feeling, right? Um, and just positive quotes. Like I have one on my wall that says right now, like live, love, laugh. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going. Like you got this. You're looking like a winner. All of these things that you may feel that are really cringy and you're like, oh my gosh, that's so cheesy. Well, I'd rather be cheesy than go ham and cheese on that biscuit, meaning go off on somebody. So it's like I have to do the I have to be very intentional and do and put in my environment the opposite of how I know I'm going to be feeling in those really hard days. I even have one right here that says, if you feel like quitting, remember why you started. And I have that on my desk because so many times when I get into PMDD, it's hard to run a business. And I don't really talk about this very often, but it is hard to run a business when you have PMDD. And I know a lot of you have asked, like, how do you do it? And I know a lot of practitioners, or coaches or whatever that help with PMDD, they take breaks during PMDD. They don't operate all month long, or they go ghost. Like if you look at PMDD podcasts, you'll see the pattern of individuals that have done podcasts and all the things, and then they take a break and then they're gone and then they come back. And I've never done that over the course of since I started the podcast in 2021. I've not taken a break. I've at least recorded one podcast per week. And now in 2024, or whenever you're listening to this, it's 2 podcasts a week. I've never let my foot off the gas because I've been able to take a step back and really say, okay, what is it that I want when I feel like quitting? What is it that I want? And it's because I want to help you because I've counseled so many of you and I've seen how we feel, not how you feel, how we feel. And I wouldn't let you down, just like I wouldn't let myself down. So the next thing that the disassociation can do is when I go on my walks and I take deep breaths, right? I I need the break. When I used to have arguments and fights with my PMDD partner, I used to say, I'm going to go on a walk. Luckily, I had a dog, or I have a dog, because it warrants going on walks. Even on times where I was out of town and I didn't have a dog, like I needed to disassociate, meaning I can't stay in this situation or else I'm going to go off on PMDD rage. When you feel like you're out of control with your emotions, it's almost a feeling of being drunk. I know the feeling of if you've overindulged in anything and you felt that whoosh feeling, like that feeling of, uh-oh, I shouldn't have had that last drink. I shouldn't have had that last glass of wine. I shouldn't have had that last shot. I shouldn't have had that last, or that last Oreo. Like if you do overeating, when you get into PMDD, like that feeling when you've overdone something and it's caused you to be like, hello, you've gone too far. Then that's when you kind of have to take a step back and you're disassociating. You're like, okay, I'm not going to continue doing what I'm doing. I'm going to take a step back. Speaking of cravings, I had to do that this last month. When I was in PMDD, I did this stupid thing, and please don't follow my lead. I did this stupid thing of like, I'm going to allow my body to have whatever it wants, and maybe it'll be happy with me because I'm giving it the cravings that it desires. That was the stupidest thing I've ever did. I had one of the worst PMDD cycles because I overate and allowed myself to eat everything that I was craving. Normally, I'm really disciplined with it. Like I'll crave it, I'll give myself one day of having whatever I want, and then the rest of the days, I'm pretty much like, I'm not doing this. Well, last month, I don't know what I was looking at or what I read or what I saw, or I don't know, but something convinced me to be like, whatever your body's asking for, just give it to your body. It's going to continue to ask for it, until you give it to that. So maybe if you give it to it, that it'll feel satisfied, or carbs are good for yours. Oh my gosh, there was so many chemicals that were saying it gives you that dopamine hit and it's good for you. I don't know what I believe, but I know my body. And when I have excessive amounts of carbs and sugar and junk food and all the things, I feel horrible in PMDD. And I played myself. I played myself last month because once you start to give yourself those carbs and those cravings, because I crave salty and sweet. So and I'm a very habitual person. I'm a habit-based person. So once I start having something, like I'm having it every day. Like for example, for lunch, I was going to this deli and I was getting a chicken salad sandwich. And it was packed with this meat because I was like, oh, it's salty. I loved it. It was chicken salad. I loved it. I didn't have to cook. I went there. And then the deli also had like fresh made donuts every morning. So like I was getting this maple bacon glazed donut. So like every day, I did it one day and I thought it was going to be my one day, but then I convinced myself the next day, like, do it again, you deserve it, blah, blah, only during your luteal phase, all the things. I ate that for 14 days straight like an idiot. I was literally like, what? It's like my body was like clockwork. It was like, up, time for the chicken salad sandwich, the sub, which was a huge sub, and the bacon glazed donut. And I know they were looking at me like, you're in here getting the same order again. And I started getting more than one because again, your body gets adapted to certain things, which is why a lot of supplements, medications, they may work initially, and you're like, oh, this is great, and then over time, your body gets used to it. And it's like, and what else? Like, so what? So, like, my body got so used to getting one donut that I started eating two donuts. And what happened? And these are maple bacon glazed donuts. It sounds amazing. I'm not going to do it this month, but I'm like literally drooling right now, even thinking about it, because once I did it that one time, I began to do it every single day. And guess what I did during that time? That was my way of disassociating. I would hop in my bed, put on some Netflix, eat the chicken salad sandwich, eat the donuts, and pass out like a drunk. Like I was just like, like I was literally every single day. It was like clockwork. And that was my way of disassociating. I was suffering in PMDD really bad. And then I would get in the bed, turn on some soapy, like rom-com show. And lately I've been into like the ones that have the captions where they're not in English. Like I'm really into Turkish language, Middle Eastern. Now I'm watching one that's Italian. It's called Maestro in Blue. It's on Netflix. Love, love, love. It's only two seasons of it. And I'm always like, I hope they're creating another season, but like, and that's my way of disassociating. So that's the next thing that you can do when you're disassociating. You can watch Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime or Peacock or whatever it is. Like I'm really good on looking at the Kardashians. Like sometimes I want to watch reality shows like Kardashians and then other dating shows like Love is Blind or like the other dating shows like The Ultimatum and The Perfect Match. Like I'm in that mode because probably because I deal with clients all day long. But then also I'll just want to watch movies that are just like, 50 First Dates or like really rom-coms, romantic comedies and just be like, oh, that could be me, that could be me, that could be me. So immersing yourself in a good book or a movie, it can help you temporarily escape from your PMDD symptoms and reduce stress because you don't feel, especially if you're going through a really bad time in your relationship. Go watch one of those romantic comedies. It can do one or two things. It can make you feel even worse about your relationship because you can start to look at your partner and be like, why can't you be like that? Or it can give you those good feelings, those endorphins, that oxytocin that you get from watching someone be in love, and you can you let your wall down and then be nicer with your partner. Like look at the rom-com with your partner. Look at the movie with your partner and then hold hands and be intimate and all the things. Like take a break from the arguing and the fighting. Go watch something that you genuinely enjoy. Watch a comedy and laugh your butt off with your partner. And then you're disassociating from the issues that you have in your relationship and you're just enjoying life. Another thing that I do, obviously, my PMDD partner's morning routine is physical activity. I do movement every single day. There's these people that are like, you need a rest day. I can't take a rest day in PMDD. Absolutely not. Because I feel the difference. The day that I don't move my body, I feel the difference. I feel the anxiety. I feel the depression. I literally wake up a lot of times depressed. I really wake up a lot of times with anxiety, and I have to snap myself out of it by moving my body. And I have to just I disassociate from how I'm feeling. And I tell myself, we're doing this. I don't ask myself the question, oh, should I work out today? Oh, this is why I always have to be on a plan, like a plan with a calendar. Like I'm a coach for Beachbody or Body, which they call it right now. And I'm always big with the calendars because it's not a matter of, oh, I wonder what I'm going to do today. No, I'm going to do what it says. It's Wednesday. I'm going to do the Wednesday workout. I disassociate from giving myself a choice because if I gave myself a choice, I wouldn't do it. Absolutely would not do it. Someone was just commenting on my Instagram the other day, another practitioner or coach that works in PMDD, and they're like, I admire your discipline. I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, I love the feeling that I get afterwards, but I'm not like jumping for joy when I'm waking up in the morning. A lot of times at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and I'm hopping on to do stuff. I would much rather stay in the bed. Absolutely. So it's not a matter of I have something that you don't have. I discipline myself enough to do it because I know that when I move my body, I get energy afterwards. I get endorphins, I get dopamine, and I get serotonin. So I'm looking at the chemicals that I'm giving my body. I think of it like waking up and taking a supplement. You can't give yourself endorphins like in a pill form. You have to actually physically do something. And endorphins is one of the key things that makes me feel better in PMDD, which is why if you go on the blogs and stuff, they'll say like they're working out because it makes them feel better in PMDD because you get those endorphins. You get the dopamine hit by completing the exercise. Like it's like, oh, I did something today. Even on days where I know I'm gonna lay in the bed all day and be like a corpse, I'll work out first. So at least I get those endorphins, I get that dopamine, and then I don't feel bad about myself when I'm laying in the bed for hours and hours because I can recall I did something today. And the next thing is engaging in creative activities. I know I have so many artists that have PMDD, so many of you that do music, so many of you that do writing. I do a lot of you would think that I would avoid doing podcasts when I'm in PMDD, but I do the most. I looked at the record when I sent it to my podcast producer. I do the most podcasts when I'm in PMDD because I'm feeling internal. Sometimes I'm not feeling like being out and about. I'm feeling like I'm feeling the PMDD. So I try to give it to you as I'm feeling it. And it helps me disassociate from my PMDD symptoms because it's diverting my attention and it's providing me with that emotional outlet. Like I'm able to talk about PMDD, whereas I'm doing something about it versus just talking about my suffering. I don't know if you notice, you should notice if you listen to my podcast, I don't just talk about my suffering. I don't just say, oh, I feel so horrible. I feel so horrible. Like, don't you feel horrible? Yeah, I feel horrible. Like, no, I'm always giving you tools and I'm able to do research on giving you these tools. And that research that I'm doing for these podcasts is redirecting my focus from suffering myself. Having my private sessions with my clients is a form of disassociation because I could be feeling horrible and I never deny a private session, especially if you're my private client and you say, oh, I have an emergency session and I need to book one. I will, if you know, and I have clients in over 60 countries, I'll tell you, this is my availability. Like, let's meet today, let's meet tomorrow. I'm very immediate with my response because I know how bad you can feel when you're in PMDD and you don't have that level of support and you're freaking out with your partner and you don't want to do damage. That's a form of disassociation because if no matter how bad I'm suffering, crying. I've been crying right before sessions and like got on and been able to help other people. It's disassociating from what I'm going through. And then I tell myself when I'm done with this session, I'll go back to dealing with whatever it is that I'm going through. So the next way that you can disassociate is social interaction. This is something that I really didn't use that much when I was in my last PMDD relationship because I was with my partner and almost some of those social interactions were furthering making my PMDD symptoms worse because we had issues that we needed to talk about that weren't resolved. And then I felt like I was being forced to be in those social interactions without really dealing with the issues. But since I've been single, am single, this is when I have gone out with friends and I've dated and I've done things that have made me feel really good. And if, again, if you're following me on Instagram, you see me going out and socializing, and I love it so much. Like I love it. A lot of times when I'm in PMDD, I see it on my calendar and I create alarms for it, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe I have to go, blah blah. Can't believe I made these plans. And then as soon as I go to get ready, I feel amazing. And then when I look back on the time that I had the next day, I'm like, I'm so glad I went. So it's kind of like working out. You don't always feel like it when you start it, but you feel amazing when you're done. That's how I feel about the social interaction. So spending time with my friends that are amazing, dating people, getting to know them, it provides a distraction and it helps me focus on enjoyable activities versus laying in my bed focusing on my PMDD symptoms. And I've started to use like, so for those of you that are like, oh, if you're in the dating realm and you're like, I don't want to plan any dates while I'm in PMDD, you would be surprised how much fun you have. You'll be surprised how it almost pauses your PMDD symptoms. Because I know when I go on a date and we're just getting to know each other, like I think it's because I'm so engaged in an activity that's fresh and new. I'm not thinking about how I'm suffering in PMDD. I don't think that I am suffering in PMDD during that time. Now, when I come home from the day and I sleep longer the next day, or whatever it is, or I have the night sweats, yeah, reality comes back. But I just gave myself that pause. I just gave myself that break. So I strongly suggest that even though a lot of times you may feel like, I don't want to go out, I don't want to go to the social interaction, um, really only if you're in that PMDD rage manic state. If you feel like you're 2 seconds from going off, that's probably because you've been holding in a lot of your triggers. Then I wouldn't suggest that you go out. But if you're just like normal day-to-day suffering, like I am right now, I'm not holding anything in. I don't hold anything in. As soon as I feel it, I process it. I don't hold it in because I know what that looks like. Then I would suggest going out, go out, do the thing, especially during summer. And I know I have clients in over 60 countries, so it's not summer where you're at, but, um, if that's something that you know that you're going to enjoy, before you think about canceling that birthday trip, canceling that thing, like just try it. And the next thing is journaling. And I say this all the time. I'm not a morning journaler. I'm a bullet journaler. That's what I learned. There's different, and I'll do a podcast all on journaling, but there's different ways to journal. And I think a lot of times if people don't write out the sentences, like a journal, like you're writing a book or whatever, I feel like they feel like they're doing it wrong. But I notice not only am I a bullet journaler, but I journal the best with different color pens. Like I got this big 16 pack of different color pens. And so when I have these thoughts and feelings where I have really strong words, I'll write it in a different color. So when I'm looking at it, it like gives that emphasis on it. But these are just some ways that you can disassociate while you are in PMDD. And the benefits of it is you temporarily get to release the stress that you're feeling in PMDD. It reduces the pain. It provides you with this emotional protection, meaning if you have a traumatic event, you have a way out, right? And it helps you cope with PTSD from past traumatic experiences. Like if your partner did something to you that's really traumatic, by disassociating, going to listen to some music, going to do something different, it helps you to not get so triggered. So I know disassociation may have a bad rap and it may seem like, oh, you're checking out. But I feel like with PMDD, there are some months, there are some times when you have to check out. Like I am going on 14 days and I'm not saying I'm checking out, but I'm going to consciously take moments of disassociating because I know how intense my symptoms are right now. And again, next month may be completely different. I didn't disassociate last month. I did something different. Every month in PMDD is different. So whatever it is that you have to do to survive your month of PMDD, I want you to do it in the healthiest way possible. So I want you to just embrace disassociating temporarily, but most importantly, communicate it with your partner. Let them know what you're doing and why. Don't start disassociating and checking out from your partner and being like, this is what I need to do. And you're not giving them the why behind it. If you want to have them listen to this podcast episode, it'll give them a good way of understanding why you're doing what you're doing and is preventing you from doing damage in your PMDD relationship. So until next time, we got this. Love you. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.